What's up, y'all? It's T-Tar and welcome to Paradox Pokemon you want to see in the DLC. So I'm going to start off with an interesting idea. Here's the silhouette here. It is called Tangle Time, and I think you can see where we're going with this. This one's by Gold Mills. I want to give you an interesting thought. The name is Tangle Time. This is the basis of this game. Paradox Pokemon, the future and the past. Can you name the mythical Pokemon in Gen 9? We've always had them, starting from Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, all the way up to Gen 8 with Zarude. It's that Pokemon that comes at the end of the decks. Well, with that in mind, here is a Paradox Celebi. Can you tell if it's from the future or past? It is from both. So it's got a more awakened design on the left, more primitive and ruthless like all the past Pokemon, and then it's got the cyborg right side. There's no context to this image at all, but I love it so much. The reason I said what I did earlier is imagine if the mythical Pokemon in this game was just a Paradox Pokemon. I mean, why can't it be? We had Zarude, Manaphy, Victini. Imagine if this region, the secret one at the end of the decks, is just a Paradox Pokemon lost in time. You can't even tell where it belongs. And who cares if it's the same as Gen 2? It isn't. I think in these two DLCs, Game Freak is gonna introduce a mythical Pokemon. They always do. Of course, there's a lot of Pokemon categorized as mythicals, and there's a certain type of mythical that we know. You know, it's these ones on screen. But technically, all of these are mythicals. It seems what mythicals really are Pokemon that aren't properly known to exist, and a lot of them tend to have 600 base stats. I guess Arceus is only a mythical because no one knows it exists. But even if Ogerpon is the one for this gen, they can still make more than one. Imagine if in Gen 9 it's a Paradox Celebi. Okay, this is the thought right now. What even are Paradox Pokemon? How could this design exist? There are a couple ideas. One idea is at the end of the game when Sada and Turo go to the past and future, they accidentally had modern Pokemon in their pocket, and that's the Paradox because they end up developing in the future and past and turning into the Paradox Pokemon. Second idea is like the dream theory. Tropigus is making dreams come true. Heath made a bunch of lies in his book. Sada and Toro's deepest wishes is to meet them, so when they go to Area Zero, Tropigus makes them come true. There's always one plot hole that Game Freak intentionally gave us, which is that 200 years ago, these Paradox Pokemon existed before Sada and Toro pulled them out. In Scarlet, it kinda worked because you thought some dinosaurs just survived, but it doesn't make sense in Violet. So there's some weird plot twist that we're gonna get uncovered in this DLC. But it raises an interesting thought. Could the answer to what Paradox Pokemon really is lead to some dual Paradox Pokemon like this to be born? I just want one of them. I want it to be the mythical of this gen. Tangle Time, this is freaking solid. It wouldn't be involved in the story. Of course, the way Game Freak does things, it would just end up being a distribution. But imagine taking this back to the days where there was an actual unlockable event. Kind of like Shaman behind the Pokemon League or Victini in Liberty Island. Imagine something like if you show your Pokedex with all Paradox Pokemon to the professor, that if you start traveling the region, there's one Tangle Time Paradox Celebi roaming around. Of course, Celebi is also the one Pokemon that almost cannot be Paradox-sized because Celebi exists in all time periods. Let's not think about multiple Celebis, but Celebi can go wherever it wants. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it takes you a couple years into the past, so in a weird way, Celebi would be your way to actually going to the past and future rather than being affected by this paradox phenomena. But it's a paradox. Who even knows what's going on? In a game about time travel, why not give an Easter egg to the actual one time travel Pokemon we have, aside from Dialga? Next, I want to show you guys some future designs by Cardinal H. So we have a lot of fun with these. I show screenshots, photoshopping them into Area Zero, and it gets your mind going. So about fusions, here's one. It's called Iron Swirl. It is a water steel type and a Paradox Poly. You can't tell which one. So this Pokemon has Poliwrath features, right? The big chest and the eyes and all, but it has the wrong Politoed features. It's fists. The only thing Poliwrath is supposed to use, they got it from Politoed. This is how wrong the future scientists get these sometimes. Remember, they try to make Iron Valiant as the ultimate psychic type and they forgot the psychic. It is a robot soldier of the future used for protection and warfare. I don't think he's protecting anything. Look, even his feet are the bald feet of Politoed. But watch them roaming Area Zero, minding their business. You love them. Also, water steel type, you're gonna love the future terrain. Remember, the theme here is robots from the future with jobs. Here's the next one, Iron Float. It's an electric water type and it's a Paradox Voltorb. So this is a flotation marker from the future. I think they're called buoys, and sometimes seals will climb on them to escape the water. So they found Voltorbs in the future, and they made them float in the water. So let's say there's water in Area 0, you'd be surfing, and these would just be placed around like mines. Of course, they don't explode, but I mean, they are Voltorbs deep down. Maybe they do explode. Goodness, it would actually be horrible to shiny hunt these. Imagine if the only move they knew was self-destruct. And imagine it doesn't let you run if you encounter one. That is a sad shiny to find. I guess you need damp. We gotta go back to the polyfake rat. Now we run for our life back to the shore, and you see these guys wandering around. Iron Jaws. A ground rock type, it's a Paradox Trapinch. So we saw something similar. We saw Bidoofs, but we just imagine these dudes are like scrapping with Bidoofs from the future. They used to construct stuff together. I guess they're friends. So it's a construction and demolition device from the future. Aren't those like spiked balls, wrecking balls? You think he'd pick his head up and smack it at people? Goodness. To think Game Freak only made like one proper future Pokemon, Delibird. That's the only one where its tail is actually something else. The other ones are kind of cool like Iron Moth, but like Delibird and Miraidon are the only actual improvements. Oh, Iron Treads too, but the dude's face is so ugly. Reminds you of someone. Now, I want to end this video showing you guys an interesting idea. So, I talked about there's no mythical Pokemon in Gen 9, right? There's also a phenomenon where the covers of the Scarlet and Violet book are Miraidon and Miraidon because they're the kings of the past and future. So, there's actually a third tier to Paradox Pokemon in the game, especially for future Pokemon. There's the normal ones, then there's the noble ones, which are Iron Valiant and the two legendaries, but there's also the king of the Paradox Pokemon, Miraidon. That's why Miraidon has such obvious additions to it compared to Cyclizard. Or else, it would have just looked like a green Cyclizard with plates. Look at these two right now. That's not future Cyclizard, that's some hectic future Cyclizard. So I want to give you guys the thought. Does Miraidon and Miraidon have to be the kings of the past and future? Or can't there secretly be like another one at the very back of the Pokedex? You know, in Sinnoh, you go to the back and Giratina and Regigigas and all are there. Imagine if there was one other king of the future. And so I take you to Bobby Boy. Here is, look at that silhouette. Here is a Pokemon called Iron Deluge, a Paradox Pokemon Psychic Water type. So if you don't know what a deluge is, it's like the biblical flood. It's a giant downpour of rain. This Pokemon commands the seas. It is a Paradox Future Lugia, and it's completely over the top, and I love it. This is why I gave the Miraidon Prelude, because you can't see this happening unless you imagine it as another Miraidon tier future legendary. These wouldn't be involved in the story, they would be like extra legendaries that you go back to Area 0 and you find. Regigigas and Snowpoint, kind of like the Ruinous Pokemon. But it would just go to show you that there are more Miraidon and Miraidon tier Pokemon in the future. We're just focusing on them because Heath had a Cyclizard, and that probably plays a role to what Miraidon and Miraidon really are. So we focus on our little group, but there's more. This is so good. So let's break it down. They took its giant wings and added fans so it can float more efficiently. Its wingtips are now giant panels. It's fully metal with a little bendy straw neck. This dude has iron talons and that nice future touchscreen look all around its body. This Pokemon appears to have some sort of rain-making device inside of its body, which it uses to bring rain to places suffering from drought. The other cool thing with separating this from the other future Pokemon is it can have its own ability like Miraidon does. It could in fact do some rain summoning ability. It could even have an ability above Miraidon's. I noticed this when playing the Sword Extreme Randomizer. When there's a thunderstorm outside, it's both raining and summons the electric terrain. Imagine this dude, he summons both at once. I guess I would put him above Miraidon. That's not my intentions here. I want him to be equal. Actually, imagine this. This Regigigas in Snowpoint Temple, imagine this thing is powered off and crashed somewhere deep in Area 0. So you go, you find this new place, you do a strength puzzle and you make it to the bottom, and it's a turned off Lugia. And you either turn it on or it reacts to you and wakes up, but that's how you encounter it. Oh, that'd be so sick. I'm gonna shut up now. Make sure y'all shank that like button, visit the artist in the description, and I'll make another one of these in a few days. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.